podcast about family, who we were then, who we are now, and who we are becoming. My dad was born in 1940, and times back then were different in a lot of ways.
And my mother said, "You better put that gun down. If you shoot me, I'm going to spank you like you've never been spanked before."
And then again, not that different at all.
Still picture us walking down the street, looking at the windows, looking at those travel brochures, looking at the diamonds and the little coffee shop and all that, and something I'll never forget.
My dad is a geologist, and I grew up on stories of his early career about riding elephants to work in Thailand, mine collapses, and how a Polaroid camera saved his life. I know these stories by heart, but it's time to share them with my own kids. Let's see what they have to say.
Well, I can remember some of the things that we used to do in Guyana, in the jungles. I had written to 3 different companies. I was getting ready to graduate, so I wrote one to Reynolds Aluminum because a professor had known this guy, and this guy was a graduate of El Paso School of Mines. Another one I wrote to was a uranium company in Colorado. And then the third one I wrote to was Macabar, which is a mud logging company out of Arkansas. And so I wrote all 3 of them. I never did hear from the uranium company, but one day I got a telephone call, and it was from Reynolds Aluminum. They asked me if I'd be interested in flying to Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas, where they had a little mine, a bauxite mine near Bauxite, Arkansas, to go for an interview. And I said yes. And so I was just really excited by that. I just kind of knew that I was going to get a job on that one. Anyway, your mother and I, we got on a Texas International prop plane. And I can remember at that time what happened was that there was problems with the plane. So we were somewhere in some little town, and the pilot and the co-pilot got out, went just before the plane did, and they lifted up the floor that was between us. And they went down in the bottom in there, and they were working on some components on the fuel lines. And you imagine that here, we all sitting there listening to them. Said, "Did you get this done, get that done, get this done?" And finally, yeah. And they finally got the plane started. And we landed in Little Rock. And from there, I think we rented a car. And we went to Bauxite, Arkansas. And I had a tour of the mine and had an interview. And it turned out that the guy that was interviewing me, his name was Glidden, and his brother owned Glidden Chrysler in Victoria. I thought, aha, this is really going to be good, because the vice president that I wrote the letter to sent the letter to this Arkansas office, because that's where I really wanted to work, was in the Arkansas. I didn't know they had an overseas thing. So, oh, there's a kitty. What you doing? Long time no see. Huh? Yes, you're a kitty. Yes, you are. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. It's neighborhood kitty, because I'm still walking. Well, anyway, I got to go tour the mine and see the dragline buckets and all that. And he said, "By the way, we really don't have a job here, but we have a job opening in Guyana, in South America, in a bauxite mine. Would you be interested in that?" I said, "Oh, yes, I really would be interested in that." We went through the interview, and it obviously went well. So we flew back home, and within a day of getting home, there was a phone call that said I had gotten a job. And of course, I was really excited, and I was jumping up and down after I hung up the phone. And within 1 minute, I got another phone call from Macabar. And they said that they would be, just by looking at my resume, they would be interested in hiring me. I could come in for an interview if I wanted. So it was within 1 minute of the difference of the phone call that I got the job working for Reynolds Aluminum rather than working as a mud engineer with the Macabar. That's what I'm sure I would end up doing. Maybe end up making more money. So I graduated, and of course your mother still had the degrees to go, and she said, "Well, should I go with you?" "No, I want you to stay to get your degree in," and all she needed was 1 more semester, because this occurred in late August. I went to Guyana, so I was there from September, and I was there until your mother had your finals done. I think it was about the end of December. She was able to come. So I decided, okay, I'm going to meet you in Barbados, and I'm going to spend, I got 4 days off that I could take off, because I worked several weekends. So I said, okay, well, I will meet you in Barbados, and we'll spend 4 days or maybe a week in Barbados. And that's the first time your mother had been into a foreign country like that. It's a beautiful little place. So we actually checked in the Hilton Inn. And anyway, on my plane ride from Guyana to Barbados, there was these black girls in there. And it turned out they were the Supremes. And they were the real famous rock and roll singers at that time. They had been somewhere in South America, and they'd just been, in those days you had island hop on the plane, so I got to actually see them and kind of talk with them, which is kind of a unique thing. Well, anyway, I met your mother in Barbados, and we stayed there in the Hilton, never got out of the room for 4 days. And we watched the steel drum bands play, and we walked through the towns and through the beaches and all of that, and it was a real glorious stand. So that's what happened to us as far as the job interview goes.
So I thought this would be a neat one to listen to because, Kevin, you're starting a new job in theory sometime this summer. So this is my dad's first job.
I supposedly was going to, but then they didn't email me back, so I emailed them. And they're like, yeah, we'll talk to you tomorrow, or we'll get him today to figure out his schedule. And a week later, and there's nothing.
Yes, that's pretty
standard.
Common.
Standard
that's pretty
procedure.
Standard thing. Yeah, for getting a job.
Also, I find it very fitting that we have a cat sitting here with us as we record this.
I know. I thought about taking it out, but I was like, no, I think this is a perfect representation of what my dad is like every time he sees a cat. She's very excited, and now she's helping. Oh, thank you, honey. That's really nice. Yeah. So apparently there used to be an airline called Texas International Airlines, which sounds
catering to a very niche audience.
Yes, like how many people are leaving Texas going internationally in the 60s, and how many times is that international not Mexico?
Yeah.
So I Googled it just because I was curious, and apparently it was around as Texas International from 1940 to 47 as Aviation Enterprises, and then it was Texas International in 69, and Trans-Texas Airways, and it eventually merged with Continental Airlines. So basically it got absorbed by Continental Airlines, which has since been, I think, absorbed by United. Have you ever even heard of Continental Airlines?
No.
So unnecessary.
Yes, I think that Continental Airlines merged in 2010. Oh yeah, so you were 3.
I wasn't born.
Okay. I had a Continental loyalty number. I had a lot of miles on Continental.
Old.
Yes, older than you for sure, because that's required. Yeah, I like the concept of sitting on a prop plane and them just opening up the floor and being like, hey guys, can you hand me a wrench? I'm gonna fix this right quick as we're getting ready to go.
As much as I abhor the process of sitting in planes waiting for, whatever mechanical problems are happening to get fixed, I like that they don't make it blatantly obvious about how much is actively broken.
Oh yeah, planes are always broken.
Well, I will say that it's pretty neat that it was a 1-minute call difference between my dad being an international, geologist versus a mud engineer.
I think that's just called a potter.
Potters.
Right? I mean, depends on how you define mud. But...
Yes. You're so amazing. I like it. So did you catch the part where he's talking about my mom wasn't quite done with school yet? And this was a really big deal back then because it was pretty normal that my mom would have dropped out of school since she was now married. So theoretically, she didn't need to have a degree because she had a man. normally a lot of her friends would have, just dropped out of school because you have a husband, you have a man who can take care of you, and you don't need to worry about finishing school. But my dad insisted that, she finish her degree. And he talks about this a lot, where he always said he wanted her to be with him because she wanted to be and not because she had to be. Like, he wanted her to be able to always have that career, so she's a teacher. So she got her degree in education. She actually got a Bachelor of Science in education, which she thought was pretty important for her because she took extra science classes to get her education degree. So she had to take extra math and science to get her education degree. But, that way, no matter what happened, she could always work. And so that was really important to him that she stayed and finished that degree.
I'm glad I'm glad that he has decency and respect. That makes me very proud.
Wow.
But it wasn't a common thing at the time, right?
It was not uncommon to be a reasonable human being at the time.
Well, it also wasn't necessarily expected. Like, you don't have to.
You judge people based on the time, yes. But that is... I appreciate his progressivism.
Progressiveness?
I don't like that. That doesn't sound right.
Progressionality?
Progression.
Progressivity.
I'm gonna flip you.
Stop.
And we also had a nice little introduction to the Hilton in Barbados.
Okay, so I thought you said they didn't leave for like 4 days.
But they also went everywhere?
Yeah.
What?
No, they got to see the hotel. They probably just didn't leave the hotel, and the steel drums were probably put on by the hotel.
But they said they walked the streets.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think he was making a comment about not having seen his wife for 4 months.
I assumed so. I just want to make sure I wasn't missing anything else.
No, get it?
I get it.
Get
Please
it? Get
stop.
it?
Please
Get it?
stop.
Oh, okay.
For
No,
my
I
grandparents.
don't get it. Could you please very in-depth explain to me exactly what was probably happening?
Mommy was created.
No, I wasn't.
When did this happen?
Decades before.
Oh, whatever.
Okay. Oh, the Supremes. Do y'all know who the Supremes are?
Given the fact that I wasn't born in 1960, no.
I wasn't born in the 60s, but I know who the Supremes are.
The
Close
60s
enough.
was 50 years before I was born.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna find you some Supreme songs.
Please stop. Please, no. No.
It's a cute song. Hold on.
It's just repeating the word baby.
Baby Love.
You're an idiot, Ronald.
Hold on. There's more. I'm gonna play you another one. Never.
I don't know if I should be more concerned that this was made or that you know what to look up to find these songs.
I looked
You
up
looked
top
up Supremes.
the Supremes. That's Stop in the Name of Love Before You Break My Heart.
It might have not got to the part that I recognized.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna.
Yeah, no.
Okay, no.
Nope.
No. Okay, hold on. Let's see. So here's from Wikipedia because you guys have
That's the best source ever.
I know that your 6th grade teachers have told you that it's bad, but it's a very nice place.
I know it is, Kevin. It's a joke.
Okay. So here's Wikipedia on the Supremes. They were an American girl group and a premier act of Motown Records during the 1960s.
Yummy.
They were super popular.
So my 60s guess was correct.
Yes, the 60s. Well, because this is set in the 60s. So, like, imagine being on a plane and you see, oh my god, I was about to say 98 degrees, which isn't
don't
a
know what
thing
that
either. What's a band that's cool?
Metallica.
Kevin Piercer.
Kevin, no.
What?
No.
No.
What?
No, nobody knows who that is.
I know, that's the
sweetheart.
point. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
No. Okay, wait, what? Okay, I'm gonna Google top bands that kids listen to these
Taylor
days.
Swift.
No, okay, but Taylor Swift is like that would be like seeing Elvis on a plane. I'm trying to think about like what's a cool band? NSYNC, is that still a
I
thing?
have no clue what that is.
Mom, I listen to video
Nirvana.
game music.
Nirvana.
That would be impressive because he's been dead since the
People wear those Nirvana shirts all the time, but they have no clue what Nirvana is.
Okay.
Kurt Cobain killed himself from.
Yeah,
What's the biggest band in the world right now? Blink 182.
I've heard that name.
No one listens to Blink 182.
What is the number one band in the world right now?
What is these stats from the 80s?
How are you getting this statistic?
I'm going on the internet.
What are they judging it based on?
I don't know. I don't have any idea who the top groups are.
Taylor Swift.
Well, yeah, BTS. Is that a game thing? That's a pop band.
It's a K-pop.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that would be like getting on a plane and seeing BTS.
I don't even know what they look like.
I know. Apple. The only thing I know about BTS is old people confuse BTS with behind the scenes.
Oh, well, let's put it this way. I had to go look it up. It took us 5 minutes to find the name of a pop band. So we're obviously all super having our finger on the pulse of it.
How about this? I know these bands. I just don't think of K-pop as bands. I think of them as groups.
They're just... Don't think of them as bands. I think of them as musically inclined groups.
Anyway, they got to see the Supremes. It was super cool. Is the equivalent of seeing, apparently, BTS on a plane and knowing what that means. So, anyway, you have to be super impressed. Okay, that was fun.
Wow.
Okay, more is coming.
When I left Little Rock, Arkansas, left Bauxite, Arkansas, got on a plane, and then, of course, we didn't have the leather suitcases that we had then. I had one of those steel-framed, cornered trunks and a whole suitcase and all that. So I got on the plane, and it was with BWIA, British West Indies Airlines, and I flew from Arkansas to, I think it was Texas International, flew from Arkansas to Miami, and there I caught the British West Indies Airlines. It was quite a different kind of a plane. Anyway, we went from Miami to Jamaica, and so I got to walk around the airport of Jamaica a little bit. Oh, wow, it was hot. Even though it was September, it was hot and humid, and it was really, something different. Wow, I'm here. I'm going on to another foreign country. So we stayed there for about an hour, and then the plane landed in Barbados, where we refueled again, and I got to walk around that. Wow, beautiful place. And then finally, the plane landed in Guyana. Holy mackerel, this place is in the jungles. What it actually was a World War II airport. And they had Quonset huts that was actually built by the Americans in World War II, or maybe even by the British. And it was the same identical airport that they had at that time. And so anyway, the plane landed on there. So I went through the customs and got my suitcase, and they were waiting for somebody to pick me up. Well, I waited an hour. I waited 2 hours. I waited 3 hours, and there was nobody there. There was a taxi cab that was sitting outside, and there was no passengers in the airport, and everybody else was leaving. So, well, hell, I better go into town. Something went wrong. I got a taxi, got a joyous ride. If you ever ridden, you know what it's like riding in foreign countries with these cars. So I told him that I was working with Reynolds Aluminum. He says, oh, well, the Reynolds people, they always stay at this one hotel. So I said, okay, so take me there. So I went to that one hotel there and got there in the afternoon, waited. The next day, I heard absolutely nothing. So I waited there a whole day. Said, well, gee, I asked the people around, hey, do you know where there's a Reynolds Aluminum office? And they said, yeah, there's one about 2 blocks away. So I walked over there to the 2 blocks away, introduced myself, said, hey, I'm the new mining engineer. He said, well, we didn't hear anything about any mining engineer coming. I said, you didn't? I said, no. Well, it turns out they had actually hired somebody else, but because this guy that was the president of the Reynolds Mining Company, because I graduated from UTEP, he turned the other person down and sent me, but he forgot to tell anybody. What he did, he sent them letters that I was coming. Okay, and what's happened, the postage hadn't gotten there yet. So I sat there and said, yeah, I'm the new engineer there. And he said, you sure? And I showed him my letter of acceptance and that the letter that I was going to be living in Guyana and all this here. I said, well, okay. So they said, well, we have a plane going tomorrow. Why don't you be here at 8 o'clock in the morning and get on this plane? Well, it was a Cessna. They flew in their vegetables and all different kinds of stuff. So I got in on this plane, and here was this young English pilot who had been in a crash and had lost 3 fingers on one hand, 2 fingers on the other, and had obviously some broken bones and kind of skinny kind of guy. So we get in this old beat-up Cessna. But holy mackerel, we barely got my luggage in there. And amongst the oranges, and that's what I always remember was the oranges and other fruit that was in there. So we took off. I didn't have my pilot's license yet. So first time I'd been in a small plane, we took off. And I was just excited as can be. You know, I don't care if it was scary or anything else. This was going to be really something. And we got up and we were flying over the jungle. And he said it's about an hour-and-a-half flight to Kwakwani, which is where the mine was. And while we're driving along, he said, hey, by the way, have you ever been in zero gravity? I said, no. So he takes the plane, nose it down. Here's all the oranges floating around in the cabin. And I experienced zero gravity. And of course, I had to say, let's do it again. So we did that a couple of times. And then finally, as we're going through the jungle canopy everywhere, you see this opening. And you see some little brown spots, which are actually the open pit mines. We circle around and we land. Nobody comes to the airplane. So the pilot, he starts unloading everything, and the guy takes out the mail, and he says, well, here, whenever they come, you give them the mail. And he was just about ready to take off, and here comes this old-looking white guy, you know, gray hair and everything else in here. And he drives up to me, and he says, who in the hell are you? What are you doing here? I said, I'm your new mining engineer. Didn't you get a letter? No, I didn't ask for any mining engineer. What the hell are you doing here? You can get back on that plane. I said, no, I have a job here. They said, well, I don't have any notice about it. I said, well, maybe it's in the mail there. So he takes a mail bag, empties it up on the runway, looks through there and finds a letter from Richmond, Virginia, opens up and sees my name. Well, I guess so. And he told the pilot, here, pick up all that mail, put it back in the bag. So he did, and he gave it to me. And he says, well, put your stuff in the back. I'll send somebody to pick you up. He goes off, and I'm there by myself with the fruit and all oranges and all that. Well, it turned out the warehouse man would come and pick up that stuff. And here comes the chief engineer, comes by. And he says, who are you? And I said, I'm Vernon Kramer, I'm your new mining engineer. Well, hell, I didn't know I'm getting a new mining engineer. And of course, I was wearing my Texas outfit. You know, I had my Western hat on, my Western dress and boots and all that. He says, are you from Texas? I said, yeah. He said, you know what? I've had Texas for bosses most of my life, and they were all shitheads. And I didn't like the way they treated me, so I'm going to treat you the way that they treated me. I'm going to treat you like shit, so you better get used to it, son. Okay. This is really going to work out well.
A lot of things to unpack here. My first
fell apart at the end.
My first comment was about how he was acting like having to wait at an airport is like some big deal. It's like something was going on. I had to wait at the airport.
No, I think he was like, imagine you're at the airport and but you're not waiting. Somebody's supposed to come pick you up and you don't have a cell phone. And you're like, where am I supposed to go? Like, you don't have any instructions. Your company says, here's a plane ticket to Guyana. And you're like, awesome. Naturally, you'd assume someone would be at the airport to pick you up. I mean, maybe. So you just sit and wait. And this is what I don't understand. It's like, how do you have, like, okay, I'm leaving for Colorado and Peru in like a couple of days. And I've been tomorrow. And I've been packing for like several days and like Googling and looking at the weather, and like I've got like a car waiting for me at this one place to pick me up to take me there, and I can't imagine just being like, I have a ticket to another country and this one suitcase. I'm just going to show up at the airport and see what happens for a new job. I don't know, it just boggles my mind.
Understandably so. It is scary.
So he shows up to this place in Guyana, and he's waiting for someone to show up and be like, hey, you work here. You know, like, here's your desk, or here's a business
And
card.
anything.
Here's anything. Yeah. And so, yeah, that doesn't work. And then, like, okay, well, I'll go to the hotel. Maybe somebody's waiting for me there.
Nope.
No, nobody's waiting for me there. Okay.
And he somehow gets onto a plane with flying oranges.
What?
Then he somehow gets onto a plane with flying oranges.
With flying oranges, with a pilot who apparently has barely escaped death multiple times.
Yeah, it's a little bit sketchy.
Like a slightly sketchy that. Do y'all know what a Cessna is?
No.
It's like a tiny, tiny plane. It has like maybe 2 or 4 seats in it.
Is it like the plane we took from Westray to Papa Westray?
That would be like a nice size Cessna. Yeah, probably like that big, except they wouldn't have had the 8 seats.
We've had 4 seats and storage.
And storage. Yeah, so like basically a little putt-putt commuter plane
Yeah.
that it takes an hour and a half to apparently go from one island to another. Oh, speaking of, I also thought it was kind of cool that while they were flying from Miami down to South America, they apparently had to stop multiple times to refuel. They couldn't just go.
Didn't make it that far.
They couldn't make it that far in a tank of gas.
I like the 2 examples of stereotypical like mean boss, because like you see like overwhelmingly like complete asshole boss just in like cartoons and stuff, and it seems like it's so bad that must be a caricature. No, they're just that bad. Like people talk about like break the generational trauma, and then this one guy's like, they were mean to me, so I'm gonna be mean to this completely innocent random person. That'll teach them.
Break the generational trauma.
Break the No, we're gonna continue the generational trauma.
I also like the concept of someone calling my dad boy, because he's like, 83. So I'm also picturing this situation where my dad also looked really young. Like, I don't think he could grow a mustache until he was like 35 or something
I've
like
seen
that.
pictures of him when he was younger like that.
He looks like a baby, so imagine him showing up with his like little Texas.
He looks like he would be 15.
Yeah, little 15-year-old. I'm your new engineer. Hello.
He probably had that exact voice too.
He probably did, to be fair.
That's important to know for all these stories. Like, he just looks so different than everybody else in these scenarios.
He's just tall and gawky and
His silly hat.
yes.
Like he probably looks like he came out of like a theater production. That's just how he dresses.
I love it. And yes, so to be like, so what is he doing right now? He's sitting on a tarmac. Oh no, the engineer just showed up and said, I'm going to treat you like crap,
Yeah.
basically.
Exact words.
Okay. Yes, that's not the exact words. No.
Just the safer word.
Safer words.
Translation.
Okay, so where we are now is we're sitting on the tarmac. The boss that he's waiting for is there. Oh, and apparently somebody else was supposed to have his job, and they unhired the other guy at the last minute to hire Dad just because he was from UTEP.
Because he's that awesome.
Yeah, because he's that awesome. Anyway, so we're sitting on the tarmac with the super awesome new generational trauma inducing boss and looking forward to next steps. So let's see what happens.
So anyway, he said, well, we'll drive you up to the office and show you where your office is. So they drive me up to the office, and I walk upstairs in this old World War II barrack-type building. And Al, he went and just sat at his desk and just started doing things. That's your desk right there. So I said, okay. So I sat at my desk and just looking around. So I said hello to the surveyor and draftsman. They looked at me kind of strange. So there was a bookcase behind me. I picked up a book from there and turned it over and opened it up. And just as I started reading it, a tarantula crawled over the top of the book onto the part that I was reading. So what I did then is I carefully got up, took the book to the outside, and shook the book, and the tarantula went flying. And came back and started reading. And nobody said a damn thing. Well, that's kind of weird. And the next thing I hear is trump, 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 trump up the stairs. And it turns out what I did is I wrote the letter at the suggestion of Hank. I'm applying for this job in mining engineer. And here comes the guy that was the manager of the whole mine, the old gray-haired guy that met me at the airport. He comes up there, and he has my letter in his fist crumpled up. I can see it in there. He says, do you know this, Hank? I said, yeah, I do know. Do you know that son of a bitch went and put me in jail when I was working in Colorado? That guy's a son of a bitch. That means you have to be a son of a bitch too. Okay. And that's my welcome to your very first job as a mining engineer in South America. And he said, well, I guess we're stuck with you here. Hey, draftsman, I forget his name is, Ernie or something. Ernie, go take him to that old house that's sitting over there we used quite a few years ago. And you can give him that mini moke. So we had to have a vehicle to drive. And a mini moke is nothing more than a platform with a steering wheel and a windshield and a little engine on it. It's like a little golf cart's what it really looks like, except it isn't a golf cart. So there's no protection against the wind, the rain, or anything else. So I put all my stuff in there. The guy at survey said absolutely nothing to me. Took me to this house. There was another guy that's come with us so that they would take him back and they would leave me there. So we expect to see you back in the office in about 20 minutes. There's your house. So I walk into the house, and obviously nobody had lived in that house for at least 10 years. They had no air conditioning. At least it had electricity. It did have a fan in what was the bedroom. It had no food, no anything else. So what I did is I took the stuff in there, put it in the house, and went back to the office and said, well, where do I buy food? And they said, well, you could eat at the clubhouse. We'll let you eat there for 3 days till you get oriented, and after that, you're on your own. Over there, that's where we have the grocery store. So I went over there and said, well, I don't have any guy needs dollars. That's okay, they'll charge it to your account. So I would go over there and I would buy a bunch of food, which, of course, there was no meat. All it was just vegetables and nothing was refrigerated. And I'll tell you about how we got our meat later, so I didn't have any meat at first. So Conway was the host at the club. And Conway, he took a lot of sympathy to me, and he helped me. He got me a maid that came and cleaned up the house and dusted it and got it almost in livable conditions. And I repaired the holes in the screen wires because it is the jungle with all kinds of critters in it. I would eat my supper there. And finally I got to meet, I was there 3 days before I met the other people that were there. They had like a thing on Friday. So we'll come here on Friday. So went there on Friday, and there I got to meet, had an accountant and his wife from Arkansas, Crawford were their name. Al Reynoso and his wife, they were from Arizona. That was my boss. And Dwayne Reber and his wife, he was the assistant boss. And that was my introduction to my very first day of work. I said, okay, well, what is it that you want me to do? Well, one of the things is that we have a problem with tires. So I'll explain how that went ahead later. I found out later that you get to go into town once a month to go and buy food and supplies. You get to go on the plane. The plane comes like in on a Friday and comes back on a Sunday or something like that. And they said you have to schedule it. So I went to the boss and said, well, I guess I'd like to schedule a flight into Georgetown so that I can get some extra food. You don't need to go. There's plenty here for you. Oh, shit. Okay. Well, anyway, I didn't care. I was really excited. It was here in the middle of the jungle. Saw howler monkeys and butterflies, and it was truly in the middle of the jungle, and had rivers with piranhas in it and all of that. And all that didn't matter to me. All that mattered to me, so I really didn't care what was the other things that went on. So, as you can see, I was going to have a pretty rough time at this time, but I'm used to adversity, and to be honest with you, I really didn't care that much. But that's how I started my first job. So, that's it.
He damn well should be used to adversity.
Yes, this was pretty fantastic. He's had a very fun first day at work. So, Kevin, you have something to look forward to when you do eventually start your job. You've got a baseline to start with.
My silly little math tutor job is going to be the same caliber as South American mining engineer in a place where literally everyone hates you for some reason. Like, has some random niche reason why they would just arbitrarily hate him.
This guy put me in jail. What is the chances the guy you send the letter to put your boss in jail in Utah, Colorado, whatever he said?
It's Colorado.
Did we ever learn why he went to jail?
No, I don't think so. So yeah, he threw me in jail. So that was fun.
Okay, this is a family-friendly channel.
This is a family-friendly channel. Oh, I
Totally.
googled mini moke. I'm gonna show y'all a picture. This is a mini moke.
It looks.
It's just a Jeep.
It's
without
just a Jeep.
Yeah, so a mini moke is basically a Jeep without a top. And this ad says, "Drive yourself to Hawaii. Save when you buy $27.50."
You can't drive to Hawaii.
How do you drive to Hawaii?
I'm not entirely sure, but this
Hawaii's
is
an
the history
island.
of a mini moke. So apparently these are still quite collectible.
These people are hoping the Ice Age will come back so you can drive to Hawaii.
I like it. So it looks like he found at least one friend with the guy who was working at the clubhouse,
But only for 3 days.
but only for 3 days. You
Then
can
you're on
eat
your
here
own.
for 3 days and then you're on your own. And yeah, you don't need groceries. So you don't
You
need
can
to
survive
go.
off of grasshoppers.
Hunt squirrels, you'll be fine.
You'll be
Eat
fine.
bats.
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes me happy about hearing these stories is that, like, a lot of people in that situation would just be like, oh my God, this is the worst thing, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, didn't matter how bad it was because I got to, like, see butterflies and sloths and
Look at rocks.
look at rocks. Yes. As long as there's
Still
rocks
loves his
somewhere,
rocks.
my dad is happy. Yeah.
Dig 3 feet down.
And there's rocks everywhere. No, I think it's really kind of a neat, I guess, way to approach life, though, right? To be like, no matter what, it's cool because look,
There's rocks!
there's rocks. I guess when you're a simple man who just likes rocks, you can be happy anywhere
Entire career. just
except any
rocks.
place where people live in
You
real life.
people, rocks, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All we need is
People
rocks.
are ew.
I
Rocks
feel like
are-
rocks are quite concentrated around high population density areas.
but you
though.
can't see them because the people are in the way.
I mean, not really. Like,
No.
what makes drywall?
Gypsum.
Gypsum.
Right, but that's manufactured. He likes rocks in situ.
He likes geodes, but not the dyed geode.
Not the,
Iron, sodium. Like,
that's a cat.
That's a cat.
there's iron in there. though.
There is iron in the cat. Yes.
Could, is the cat could be classified as iron ore? Depending on how anemic she is. Ow,
Stop
don't
it!
slap me.
Because this was always the thing growing up, is my mom always wanted to go up the East Coast and like go to New York and Boston and stuff like that. And my dad was like, I don't want to go there. You can't see any of the rocks. They've already built and on over them and whatever. You know, there's too many trees and forests, and he wants to go places where,
He loves the natural look of open pit mines.
because then you can see the rocks.
Guys, look at this beautiful forest. I'm gonna dig a big hole.
Well, you need it. I mean, what was he looking for? Aluminum? Reynolds aluminum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a Lutheran church there, and I got to meet the pastor of it, and his name was Barry Lang, and his wife. And they would stay at the clubhouse whenever they would come, because they came, I think, once a month to give service at the church. But I got a chance to visit with them, and I became quite good friends with them. Well, as time would go on, I noticed that everybody got an air conditioner, but I didn't. I noticed that everybody got a freezer, but I didn't. And Ruth was getting ready to come, and I needed some food. I wanted to get the house set up and all this sort of stuff. Well, we don't have any for you. So after I was there, remember, about 4 months, I got real pissed off, and I went to the warehouse, and there was the foreman there, and I said, look, I know you have an air conditioner there. Put it in my car. I'm taking it. And I said, okay. So he put it in my car, and he actually got into trouble with that. I took it to the house, and I put it on there. Within an hour, they came to the house. What the hell are you doing with that air conditioner? We didn't say that you could have that. Well, I know everybody else has one, and I have it, and I need to have an air conditioner so I can sleep. Well, goddamn, next time, make sure you go. And they could ask for it. I said, I did ask for it, and you kept turning me down. You kept postponing me. Well, don't go and do that again. So that's how I got the air conditioner for our house. And anyway, this went on, and finally, I think it would be later, when your mother came, we got a new vice president. When he came, the first thing he did when he got there was he wanted to interview me. Okay, that was kind of strange. Maybe he spent 5 minutes talking with the manager, but he interviewed me. And so I thought that was kind of weird. So that went on, and I talked with him a couple of hours, telling him what I was doing, how excited I was to be there. And then he said, okay, you can leave. And I would find out a year or so later that he was sent down there. Oh yeah, because your mother was already there. He was sent there to fire me. And the reason why was that Ruth's father, your mother had been there for, 5 6 months, wrote about the conditions that we lived in. And she just did it as a matter of fact, not complaining about it or anything else. Well, what would happen, Bus, that's the grandfather, wrote a letter to Reynolds Aluminum saying, what in the hell do you have these horrible living conditions? I'm a stockholder in the company, and you go and you treat your employees like this here. What the hell is going on? And you should do something about it. And he went on and on and on. Well, the letter actually got sent to the president, and they said, well, go down there and fire that guy. This is what I found out later. So he went down there, he talked with me, and he didn't fire me. He let me continue to work. And that's how I discovered that I was on the shit list, and I never really got off of it. And of course, I never let Bus know. I said, hey, you wrote a letter to the Reynolds people. Yeah, did things improve? I said, well, things were different afterwards. And I never really held him accountable to it. He actually made our life quite miserable. Well, actually, what they would do is that they made my life more miserable than you did your mother. So when it came, for example, time for groceries to go into Guyana to buy groceries, the husband and wife would go. Well, with me, they decided that there was never enough room on the plane. So your mother, she went by herself and with somebody else, another wife or something like that. They never allowed me to go into Georgetown. I think I went there a total of 4 times the whole time I was there. I realized that they were just treating me, and I was ostracizing me and everything else. And so what they decided to do, since the vice president didn't fire me, let's try to make him quit. And that was the kind of things that they would do. I finally got a freezer because I went and stole one from the warehouse after about a year and a half. Then when I wanted stuff, I just went to the warehouse and just took it. And far as mini mokes go, the warehouse guy gave me a cover in the rainy season because in the rainy season, it rained directly into the mini mokes and had to drive out to the mine in the mud. The rain, so I always had to wear a raincoat and I was always wet. So they got kind of a cover for it and it worked halfway. To give you an idea how low the mini moke was, one time the surveyor wanted to borrow it to go out and do a survey point and come back. Well, as they were driving in there, a boa jumped into the damn thing. Climbed into it, and then here they were panicking because they had stopped to look around, and a big boa climbed up right into the mini moke itself. So the thing was like less than 12 inches from the top of the ground. So, when there was big holes, I always get stuck and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, they did virtually everything to make my life miserable. But I didn't know this, and I wouldn't know this until the very, very end. And then after that, I realized that it wasn't going to work out, and I need to go somewhere else. And I said, the hell with it. We'll go back to El Paso. I wrote a letter to El Paso and got accepted in the graduate program and would go there after a couple of years. So my first couple of years of working experience, although I enjoyed it, it could have been a lot better. And maybe it turned out to be the best thing because then that would at least get me to my master's degree earlier than I would have. Got me into geology rather than stay into mining. So there we have that story.
Didn't expect. I was making jokes about how everyone was being mean, but what?
That's a whole new level of fantastically awesome and awful. Sorry.
I complain about workers' conditions, and then in response,
we'll fire you.
we're gonna fire you.
And it
We're
wasn't
not even the same person. The family of a stockholder. It's like, how? Why? What is this gonna accomplish for your company? How we got back at him? Like, how dare you send us a letter complaining about how we're morally wrong? We're gonna do more morally wrong things.
I'm just picturing, so I'm sure that my mom, sent it a letter of, it's really kind of cute. We're, Vernon just stole a freezer from the warehouse or whatever. They called him Bus. My grandpa was called Bus. Bus. And I'm assuming that Bus was, doing what he thought was right, protecting his daughter, right? Because, it was
They're in a foreign country.
Right.
Especially South America.
How dare you do this to my daughter? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure he felt very self-righteous. And I could see your dad doing that. like writing a strongly worded letter.
To someone for being morally wrong.
Right, right.
It's not like he's doing anything. I don't think there's if anyone considered what he did as something that was like incorrect to do.
No, I don't think that was. I think I can absolutely see your dad doing what Bus did and agreeing and being like talking. If your dad had been like, I'm feeling like sending this letter because Bronwyn's got living in this blah blah blah, and I was like, I get it. Like I might be like, well, maybe let her fight her own battles, but if we're a stockholder, I don't know. Like I could see being tempted to be like, what the heck, and sending an email or I guess a letter. And I guess now you would just post it on Twitter and be like, hey.
People don't use Twitter anymore.
That's not true.
I've never heard a person say I'm going on Twitter in the last year.
You're 11.
They'll post it on their Insta stories.
There you
Also haven't. I don't interact with that. I'm a different type of chronically blind.
I'm gonna post it on Reddit and it's gonna go viral.
It's gonna turn into one of those sounds of the Subway Surfers on the
I'm
background.
gonna put it on Facebook.
Okay, this is unnecessary.
Okay. But I like how he was trying to help. Did that help? Yeah, it was changed. It was different after that.
Why are like the employees going after him too? Like, you tried to make our conditions better. I hate you now. I don't understand the motivations behind these people. Are they like, what are they trying to accomplish?
Well, because if the boss is going to pick on that guy and you want the boss to like you, then you pick on that guy too. And then you can all be friends picking on the guy together.
This is how fascism started.
Okay, that's not important.
Fascism isn't important.
Shush. So, go back to the beginning. Think about how he got this job in the first place.
Uh-huh.
The difference between how he got the job and then what happened on the job.
Yeah, like it was like, oh yeah, you're a great kid, you're like good friend, blah blah blah, let's hire you, this is going to be a great, we got a good connection with UT El Paso, blah blah blah, blah blah blah.
Your friend put me in prison. You want air conditioning? Ha. You want food? No, you don't need that.
I like they were at least nice to my mom though. They're like, okay, it's not your fault. Probably felt sorry for. It's not his fault either.
It's just people being stupid.
There's actually a whole lot of other Guyana stories, but I wanted to start with this one so you could get kind of like the whole picture. But he's got like a whole bunch of other recordings where he goes more into details about other things like independent Guyana kinds of experiences, and now I'm kind of terrified to listen to them and see how fantastic they end up turning out to be.
You're gonna get one of those like fight scenes where he's like standing in the middle of like a bunch of goons who all like attack him.
Entirely possible. But what's interesting though is, of course, the idea that, I don't know, quote unquote bad things happen but then good things come out of it, is that if this had been a perfect job, then he never would have gone back to grad school. Going back to grad school is what really changed the trajectory of his career. Additionally, I mean, obviously going overseas for his first job was a big deal, but going to grad school was a big deal. It made a difference in what he was ending up able to do. Fun parallel, I actually went back to grad school because I hated my job too. Yes. Yeah, I was not very happy at my job, and so I was like, well, I have an opportunity where I can go to grad school, and they actually paid me to go to grad school, so that kept me busy for a while, and that made a huge difference in my career too.
I also kept you busy for a while.
Yes, I've decided while I was working there, I might as well make eyeballs and stuff like that, so got pregnant, because I was like, I'm just going to be sitting here anyway, making PowerPoint presentations. I was a PowerPoint engineer. I was really good at it.
I'm sure you were. It shows in your work today.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, genuinely, based on like
You got a
pretty
college degree to make PowerPoint presentations.
I had a master's degree to make PowerPoint presentations. So yeah, just something to think about as you're going forward when all these weird things happen, and then you're like, why did this all happen, and why didn't this work out?
There's a magical plan.
There's a plan in the universe. No, actually, another thing that I think is really kind of neat about it is when he's like, I didn't know all of this was going on at the time. And I feel like that's me a lot. I'll be going through something and not even realize that everyone hates me until the end of it. And I was like, oh, I just thought I was misreading it. And they're like, no, nobody could stand you.
That's
Wait
great.
until... Never mind. She'll figure it out at some point, Brendan, right?
I know.
That's not very nice.
So the lesson here is you don't know it yet, but everybody hates you.
I love it. And on that note, thanks again. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. This was produced by Clever Fred Studios. Our intro music is This Is My Town from Slipstream. Special thanks, as always, to Keevan and Bronwyn for taking the time to listen to these stories again with me, and of course thanks to my dad for taking the time to record them in the first place. Here's a sneak peek at what's coming up next time.
We had a swimming pool. Decide, well, let's have a big aquarium. Cleaned it all out and put water in it, and I would go and catch all these exotic fish. We had caught a baby crocodile. He was about 2.5 feet long, and so I put him in there, and we kept him there for a long time. I guess what he did is he ate the fish that were in there, because I don't recall that we ever fed him.